Hello and welcome to the Gothic Unicorn. I'm going to begin today with a little apology because this is not the video that I was planning to make. Not by any stretch of the imagination. However, it has been one hell of a week and it's only Tuesday. Normally by this point I would be expecting to be a good way into making my video, if not actually finishing it, and nothing has happened. The video that I was going to start yesterday, it didn't happen, and yeah. So this video is going to be smaller and it's going to be, well, totally unplanned. I seem to be doing a few of these, but there's some very complicated stuff going on in my life that isn't YouTube suitable. And yeah, I just want to put something up for you. So what we're actually going to look at today is we're going to look at some miniatures that I made before I actually got serious about making the miniatures. And yeah, hopefully it will sort of become self-explanatory as we go along. I always loved small things. I had a doll's house when I was a child, but before I had the doll's house, I had a tree house. A green plastic tree house, which the leaves came up and down on to hide the little house inside, with little people and a little dog, and it was a toddler toy, but it was the start of something. And when I had my doll's house, I must admit, I did try making miniatures. I tried making extra walls because it was a really simplistic, 4 rooms, no doors, no stairs, no nothing kind of a doll's house. But I loved it. And I can remember making my first add-on to the house using a shoebox and trying to paint it with those awful paint palettes that you get as a kid. It didn't work very well, but I loved it. And yeah, when I got older, I started buying miniatures and I ended up with what I call my big house. But when my life changed and that got put into storage for a while, I sort of left miniatures behind. And then I got the doll's house back, but I didn't really do anything with it because I didn't know what to do with it. It was just this great big piece that didn't reflect me. But I've talked about that doll's house previously. Anyway, I got back into making miniatures because I had a request to make some pieces for a play scale doll, which is 1/6 scale. It wasn't actually a Barbie doll, which is the most common one. It was for Monster High dolls, which they're coming back again now, but they were popular a few years ago. And I made a dressing table and I made some food. I got really good at 1/6 scale food. Craft foam was my friend. I could do a lot of things with craft foam. And to be fair, I stuck all the pieces down to plastic plates that I made from the bottom of plastic packaging. You know, the sort of thing where you've got maybe chocolates or biscuits or things and you get circles and sometimes squares in the bottom. I used those for plates. They were brilliant. Worked great, was very well loved. Then we moved on to Sylvanian families. Now, if you don't know what Sylvanian families are, or calico critters for our North Americans, this is, I'm not sure if he's actually Sylvanian families or if he's a look-alike, but they are weird. They don't fit into any single scale. Height-wise, they sort of work at 1/24 half scale. But in terms of the width and the size of them, they're more like 1/16. So everything that you make has to be made specifically by heart. You can't try and be exact. You can use some pieces that are 1/12. You can sort of cut the legs down on the table, things like that. But that's what I was making for, and that's what I'm going to show you today. We've actually been emptying our storage locker because it was just too far away, and it worked in terms of the house that we moved out of, but in terms of finding things, it was quite away from where we're living now. So everything is everywhere. It all needs sorting, and my craft room is back to being a complete and utter tip. And I can't find anything, which is the other reason why I've not really done a lot. But I have found a box which has got some of my earliest makes in, and they're made for this guy's sort of scale. So I'm going to show you these, and you can just see that actually I've come quite a long way. So if you're starting out, don't worry, you will improve. That old adage that practice makes perfect, well, it might not ever be perfect, but it can get better. So I'll put him aside, and I'm going to bring in the first piece. And this is the first piece that I made for the 1/12, not 1/12 scale, for the little animal dudes. And it's a shop. And this is it. This is it from above. It was made very much so that they would fit. They can get through the door. Just about. The door's not quite wide enough for him. He's quite a broad little fellow, but he can actually get in. And I made this box out of foam board. It's foam board and scrapbook paper, and it's painted on the outside and papered on the inside. I've added a window, you can see there, and the fixtures and fittings that you'd need in a shop. So we've got a counter for the shopkeeper. There's a fake door on this side so that you can suggest as a storeroom or something back there. And then I've got lots of shelves. Now I'm going to lift these ones up because these are not attached. I left these so they could be moved to make the most of the space. And this is my fruit, very, very basic fruit, all made with silk clay. And I was being quite daring because I put little brown bits on the end of the bananas. And then I've got another piece here that's got the vegetables. And yeah, kind of works. Now these are made from a combination of cardboard and craft foam. I was loving craft foam at this time. It was cheap and cheerful, and it worked. And it's fairly resilient in little hands as well. The counter likewise is made from cardboard and topped with craft foam. I'm afraid all this is rather dusty. It's been in storage for quite some time, and I haven't cleaned it out. I've literally took it out of the box and put it here. I've got a little sack, basket, whatever. It's actually a plastic mini egg thingy with fake potatoes in, and then a bit of fabric around it to give it a kind of rustic appeal. I'm going to turn this onto its side because this one I can do, and you can see that I stock the shelves as well. All this is homemade. The printed boxes on that top shelf there were just free printables off the internet, and everything else is made out of a combination of silk clay, paper, There's quite a bit of paper involved, some beads, and for the jars I've used a combination of, I think, bits of glue stick and bits of clear pipe, the sort of aquarium pipe. This is something that you can use in a better method than I did in 1/12 scale. But yeah, you can see I made my chillers, again, cardstock and craft foam. The shelves are made out of craft sticks, and then I've got some little containers on here which are made out of bits of plastic packaging. And yeah, that was the starting point. That was how I began making miniatures again, actually at a miniature scale, and it's all gone from there. Moving on from my little food shop, which was pretty much not wanted the minute it was finished. It took me that long to finish it that we'd actually acquired a proper Sylvanian family shop by the time it was done. So I decided I was going to make something far more complicated, and I made what I called, well, what was called Flora and Fauna. Actually, this wasn't the second one. This was the third. The second one was a cafe, and the cafe is long gone. It was well played with and destroyed pretty much. And I made this, and this is quite big, as you can see. I can't get it all in shot if I put the camera above. And excuse my chair squeaking, but I was leaning back in it. But it's got windows, door, and then we've got two sections to the shop inside. We've got a sort of gift shop, and we've got a florist shop. As you can imagine, this actually took me quite some time to do. And again, it hasn't had a lot of play because it was decided it was superfluous by the time I finished it yet again. So it's actually sat in my craft room for a good many years in the old house, and has been in a box for 8 months, something like that. And as you can see, I put a lot of effort into the little details. There's all kinds of things that you might find in a gift shop on these shelves here. And I will turn it round so I can show you the other side. The counter in this one, and the table, chairs and the sofa are all actual furniture pieces that I picked up cheaply and used because it was easier than making my own. We do these things, don't we? And then at this end, I've got my florist, and I will try and move this enough that I can show you. I've got the florist's workbench. There's a couple of bought pieces on there, which are mainly scissors and a vase there, I think. And then I've got my first incarnation of the cheap table to dresser, that workbench being made from scratch. And I've got various little mini plants in that piece. And again, it's foam board and scrapbook paper because that was what I had to hand. I did have to buy some bigger foam board because my smaller pieces were nowhere near big enough, and it took some effort, but I kind of like how this came out. Turning it round to the other side of the florist shop, you can see the amount of effort I went into. Most of these flowers I actually made myself. I've got the earliest incarnations of my floral skulls in the window with a quite clever for me glass shelf. Bearing in mind this was 5 years ago, I wasn't making miniatures at that point, not really. This was, as I say, a request. But I like how it came out, even if the flowers aren't all realistic. Now I'm going to turn that back a bit, and you can see here that I've got a nice set of shelves with bath bombs and bath oils and things. All beads. The soaps at the bottom are slices of glue stick coloured with alcohol ink. And then in the window, I've got a set of greetings cards. Now, each of the greetings cards in there is a card that has been hand decorated. I actually sat several evenings just drawing little tiny images on the cards, and they are all different. If I was to take them out, and I think they're glued in, they should all be glued in, I could show you that they are all different. But this was the level of detail that I put into this piece. And you can see the windows. I'm not showing you too much because there's a lot of junk at the back of my desk, but it actually was a completely playable piece when I made it. So the final piece that I'm going to share with you is a shed. Now this side wasn't in the original plan. It was something that developed sort of as a bit of a joke. In fact, the entire piece started off as a bit of a joke that I was going to build a shed, and it ended up being a shed for one of the little animal critters. And the garden came about because under here, and this piece is actually removable, I have the battery pack for the lights for inside. And unfortunately, the trellis, which I made this beautiful flower effect with beads and little punched flowers, has got damaged. And then I've got a really comfy chair that is just made out of some bits of foam and cereal box board and a bit of fabric. And then we've got a bit of a patio and a bush that was made out of some more of the sponge, the foam that I used for the seat. And then some flowers that grow up. And then this side we've got a little bird bath, which I did the water in the bird bath using glue, and it has actually yellowed slightly, but it's okay. Coming round, if I turn the piece round, we've got an actual door into the shed, and we've got a water barrel. It just seemed right to include a water barrel on a shed. Now, the shed, you don't remove the roof or anything. I did actually have a go at making a shingled effect roof. And as you can see, there's a little chimney, which makes you guess, or gives away the game, that there is actually a little tiny stove inside, and the stove door does open. It's all done more scrapbooking paper, and this is made out from a cardboard box that we just happen to have lying around. So I'm going to change the angle a bit so I can actually show you inside, which means I'm going to have to alter the lighting a bit, but that will only take a moment. Now, I made this sort of open side on the one side of the box to make it possible to play with this piece, but it was never perfect, mostly because I was working with a box and I was sort of making it up as I went along. I did, however, do actual siding. These are actual pieces of cereal box on the outside. As you can see, I didn't ever get to finishing off the edge. I kind of lost interest in the piece and went on to making more interesting things for my doll's house. Inside, I had a request for a little sleeping platform, and that's what's up there. And if I very, very carefully remove the ladder, which is made out of coffee stir sticks. You can see that inside there is a workbench and there's a bookcase with appropriate books, bits of wood and newspaper. On the windowsill, if you ignore the paint in the background, there are lots and lots of packets of seeds, and then there's a comfy chair. It isn't the best one to show off. Perhaps if I turn it, as you can tell, this is not been planned. You can actually see better if I show you in from the doorway. There is actually a lot of detail in this piece, and oh, there we go. We can see the seeds on the windowsill. But yeah, lots of fun to be had by making little flowers and things in this. But this was well loved. I hope that showing you these pieces has shown you how my miniatures have been refined. I moved from them onto my witch's cottage, which there is a video of, and again I refined things from that into what I'm doing now in my doll's house. I don't claim to be an expert, you know, I'm muddling along most of the time. I make it up as I go along, or I come up with an idea and I don't know until I make it if it's going to work. So sometimes I start videos and it really doesn't work, and so I have to scrap it and do something else. But I just wanted to sort of show you that with a little bit of effort, if you keep going at it, you will make better stuff. And I think anybody that's made miniatures, or to be fair, anything, would actually agree with that you will improve. And the other reason why I wanted to show them is, to be fair, I've got nowhere to keep them anymore. That's one of the reasons why they've been in a box for so long. And I think that I am sadly going to have to take the pieces apart and scrap the structures and keep some of the little bits that I made for in it and integrate them into other projects. So you never know, you might see some of those pieces showing up in a video in the not too distant future. If you've enjoyed this video, as bizarre as it has been, please like, comment and subscribe. Maybe ring that notification bell so that when I get a video up, YouTube will let you know. I try to upload every week, usually on a Friday, but real life has an annoying habit of getting in the way of my miniature fun. And yeah, unfortunately, that's how it is. But until next time, bye.